Hi everyone, my name is Xian and I am an illustrator, a ceramicist, and a comic artist. And if you haven't watched my videos before, welcome. And if you have, welcome back, I guess. I'm happy to see you again. So this is a bit of a different video from the usual kinds of videos that I do, because usually I do art vlogs and just share with you like my process of doing shop updates and like stickers and illustrations. And for this particular video I wanted to make some use of the time-lapse videos that I have saved on my iPad whenever I use the Procreate app. And so yeah, I have a bunch of videos and I just thought I might share some of them. And recently I made this short comic called Giant. It's a very short comic of like 5 panels, I think. And there's like a whole video recorded of my entire process making that particular comic, and I thought that it would be a really nice idea to share with you and sort of like talk a little bit about the process behind, share with you what I was thinking, or what were some of the struggles of it and what it is like to work with these shorter comics. I don't know what that sound is. I think it's a car. Anyways, I don't know if the mic can pick it up, so I'm really sorry if it can and you're listening to a bunch of cars passing by like the one that just did. So yeah, I'm really sorry about that. I'm gonna try and cut as much as possible these sounds, but I'm not sound engineer, so that's probably not going to happen. I'm really sorry. But anyway, so let's get started. Hopefully no cars will pass by while I'm trying to talk to you through this whole process. So yeah, I guess I should start by letting you know what this comic's about, which in case that if you haven't read it, you can do so on my Instagram profile. I usually have most of my comics there, and if not, I probably have a link to where you can actually read them. But this one in particular, it is on my Instagram page. And so it's basically about this girl that has a dream about her being a giant, and that's it. That's the whole premise. And like I said, it's a very short comic, and usually I start by drawing the thumbnails of what the comic is going to look like. I think thumbnails tend to help a lot in the process of deciding how the panels are going to look and how they're going to be placed in space. So I think that usually they make the work a lot easier once you jump onto the final look of what the comic is going to be. And because this is a shorter project, I usually tend to like look for what the themes of the comic is going to be, so that I can go back and have these themes or these mental notes as a reminder of what I'm supposed to be aiming at. But because this is such a short project, it really doesn't matter. I really didn't have any particular words or like keywords for it, so I just charged in and like changed things as I went. And that's what's fun about working with these particular shorter projects, because I can allow myself more freedom and allow myself to change things on the go, and just generally not focus too much on like the details that I would usually focus on if I'm working on longer projects and so on. So yeah, I also want to practice doing comics more often, and so doing shorter projects I think is the way to go for me. So like I said, I generally start with the thumbnails that allow me to figure out where I'm going to be placing all of the panels, and after that I go through the hard process of redoing these sketches a second time. Generally on this second go I try to add a lot more detail, so that once I go into the final look of the comic, it's a lot easier for me. So I just try to make my job easier by drawing again everything, I guess. With this particular panel that you're seeing right now, I did struggle a little bit because originally I wanted to have the main character's face looking upwards into the sky and then a hand reaching out into the stars, but I couldn't quite figure out how to do that. It felt really weird for me. So this is where the whole thing of me allowing myself to change things as I go is shown, basically. So in this case, I decided not to draw the face of the girl and just use the hand reaching out motion. And I thought it was like more poetical, not seeing her face, but just seeing her hand reach out. And so that's why I decided to go for this particular final look as opposed to the one that I originally had in mind. And yeah, I think that usually when I work with longer projects, I do stick to my guns, and if I want to draw something and I'm struggling with it, I will probably kind of like step away from the project or try to look for better references and then get back into it and actually try my best until I get it. But with with this comic, I decided to allow myself the privilege of just like not stressing myself out, I guess. Not stressing myself out too much, and just change things if I needed to change them, and if that would make the job easier for me, I allowed myself to do that, which is, as I said, usually not something that I allow myself to do. And in doing that, I think that I generally enjoyed drawing this comic a lot more. The panel that you saw before is actually one that I was planning to put at the end of the comic, but in the end I thought that it worked better as a solo piece, so maybe in the future I will get to do a final illustration of that particular panel, or maybe use it as a cover if I ever decide to print this comic. But because this one's very short, I don't know that I will print it. I would probably need to have more shorter comics to make like a little anthology of short comics. So yeah, but yeah. And so we finally arrived to me drawing the final look of the comic. And for the very first panel, I struggled so much with the eyes, and you will see me later on what I mean. I changed the eyes so many times. I think that I ended up drawing like 5 pairs of eyes, and none of them convinced me. And in the end, I ended up deciding to go for the eyes that I liked the most, I guess. But even then, and even till this day, I'm on the fence about the eyes that I ended up choosing. But this is what's important about these projects, is that I wanted to make a comic that, a stress-free comic, right? Where I would have to take chances into doing different things, changing things, and finally coming up with like, having to make a choice. For this particular case, me going with different eyes, in the end it was like, okay, just stop drawing eyes and choose one and stick with it and just move on, because if I would probably still be changing the eyes if I hadn't chosen one pair of eyes. So probably, as you can see, it was a lot easier to draw the final panels, except for those eyes, right? As you can see right now, I'm changing the eyes. I'm gonna go through probably like 5 different types of eyes. But yeah, in general, the process is a lot faster because I already have the kind of like the final sketches, and it's just a matter of drawing on top of them and adding details that I just think will make the final panel look better, I guess. But yeah, I don't really think that I have a style. I do usually default to like the more almondy shape eyes, but for this one I wasn't really feeling it, so I had to try different pairs of eyes. My my camera decided to turn off because it was too hot, and so she just decided to go to sleep. But anyways, so let's continue. Yeah, eyes are hard. I struggle with them a lot, but I had to make a choice. And I know that it was like supposed to be like a calm, easy breezy comic, but I think that because this was like the very first panel, I thought that it was important for, at least for me, to like it enough. Yeah, so in this next page, the panel with the hand, I actually ended up using a photo reference of my hand to actually redraw the hand, because the one that I had originally drawn, I felt that it was very flat. And I'm not saying that this is the most realistic hand ever, but I do think that there's like a huge difference between the original sketch of the hand that I made that is incredibly flat and horrible, and the final hand that I ended up drawing with the help of a photo of my hand. And again, this is like not my hand specifically, because my hand is actually very skinny and long, and that's not exactly what I wanted to draw. That's not the hand that I wanted to draw. So usually I like drawing like chunkier hands, and so I just used a reference to understand the shape and the form that the hand would take in that particular position. So yeah, use reference whenever you can. I do think that that's incredibly important. Even if it's like for something very simple, it does make a huge difference. Although I have to make a confession to you guys, I don't always use reference, but I think that it's usually oftentimes on things that I already kind of understand how to draw, and in situations where maybe the subject that I'm drawing is not as important, so it's okay if it's not perfect, or if it doesn't look exactly like what the original or the real object looks like, or if I'm going for something more cartoony, and you know, like reference just ends up again helping to understand the shape and the form and how this particular shape works in space. But in the end, it's up to you, you know, what things you want to keep and what things you want to take out, or like, you know, because one thing is using reference and the other thing is stylizing something, and these are two very different skills, I feel like, and I think that it took me a while to understand that. And so yeah, reference usually I use for form, to understand how this works, but then usually like I do a quick sketch of how it's supposed to actually look, and then from there I stylize it in the final drawing. But because hands are something that I'm a bit more acquainted with and that I kind of draw, and I know kind of like how I want to approach drawing hands in what I would call my style, although that's a topic for another time. But like, yeah, because hands are something that I'm familiar with, I don't struggle with as much. For example, for this particular panel, I didn't actually use a reference for the hand. I wouldn't say that this is the most perfect hand either in terms of the way that it's positioned. You know, like if you don't really grab a flower like that, I'm completely aware of it. But I kind of like drawing the hand the way that it was drawn in there. So I'm completely fine with it. Not being perfect and not being, yeah, and not being like what it would actually look like. What would it actually look like I didn't have a flower at hand at the time. I guess I could have used like a pencil. I don't know. How do you grab a flower? Because to begin with, the stem of a flower isn't even as chunky as this one. So anyway, so that's what I'm saying about like form and like shape and stylization being very different. And yeah, I think this is the last panel. And another thing that I have into consideration whenever I'm writing a comic is the actual font that I want to write it in. And originally I used to hand write. I think I have like a comic in there where I hand wrote everything, and that's one, very tiring, and secondly, very tiring. It's just very tiring. So I tend to default to maybe, I thought that for this particular one it would be best to actually start using fonts, like digital fonts. So that's what I did, and it's much better. And usually I just tend to go for fonts that are very legible, like very easy to read, sans serif fonts. And so yeah, just try to figure out which is kind of like the one that would work for me. But yeah, so this is what the comic ended up looking like, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out, even though I had my issues with some of the panels. I think that I navigated through these problems very well, and I did the main thing that I was supposed to do with this project, which was finish it. I finished it. Yay for me. So yeah, let me know if you like this new format of me sort of sharing my time lapses with you guys. This is a lot more casual, so I do end up making a lot more mistakes when I'm talking, and there's a lot more noise going on outside because I kind of tried to film it in one take. So yeah, maybe this isn't for everyone, but if you did like it, please let me know in the comments down below. Because yeah, I would be down to making a couple more videos like that whenever I have like maybe another short comic of like, or like another particular illustration that I feel I can talk about. But yeah, I think that would be it for this particular video, and I hope you're having a wonderful day.